Hi there, and welcome to the Cotswold Explorer. I'm Robin Shuckburgh, and we're exploring the wonderful region of the Cotswolds in southwest England. We've decided to revisit the centre of the region and find some hidden gems, places that are not quite so famous, but still just as beautiful. It's a great day for me today. You find Ross, Widget, Gizmo and me in the little village of Ampney Crucis. And we're having a nice time walking around, but it's made particularly wonderful by my very special guest today. It's half term, so I have with me the two greatest grandchildren in the world, Matilda and Huxley. Say hello. There they are. I know it's very disappointing for all you grandparents around the world to realise that, after all, these are the finest children in the world. But there you go, it's just one of those things. We're going to show you around this extraordinary village. It's interesting, actually, because the church is great and fascinating, but the village is very definitely not easy to visit because there's very, very little parking. Come with me. The Ampney villages, of which there are 3, are named after the Ampney Brook that runs through them. They straddle the A417 that runs between Fairford and Cheltenham, and I must have driven past and through them thousands of times. Somehow, I've never dropped off the main road in order to visit them. My mistake. Today, we're visiting 2 of them. Ampney Crucis, which for some reason I've always assumed was the largest, and Ampney St Mary, which is very definitely the smallest. As usual, the village is gathered around a substantial manor house, with the church close to it, and an assortment of pretty Cotswold cottages, interspersed with cottages and houses from all ages, all on the bank of the brook. The house, called Ampney Park, was probably here in some form before the beginning of the 16th century, but was bought and expanded by the Pleydell family in 1562. It has had a checkered history under varied ownership. In the early 18th century it was owned by Viscount Down from Yorkshire. It seems the Cotswolds has always been a perfect second home option. In the 1760s it was bought by the Blackwell family, who stayed until the end of the 19th century. They made all kinds of additions and alterations to the house, before eventually selling on to the locally well-known Cripps family, who built on a billiard room with stained glass windows featuring the arms of all the previous owners. The result is a very interesting architectural hodgepodge, which in the 20th century has spent time as an accommodation block for the students of Cirencester Agricultural College, and even a stint as an hotel. It was subsequently rescued in 1997 by the businessman Edward Scott and his wife Angela, who put the house into excellent order and built some great equestrian facilities. Edward Scott died soon after the job was finished, and his wife lived there alone until 2018, when she decided to put it on the market. As far as I can tell, it's now in private hands, but being done up to offer a top-end wedding and party venue. The gardens are wonderful and roll down to the brook. And right next door is the church, unusually dedicated to the Holy Rood, or cross. This church is also a fascinating hodgepodge. David Very, who wrote the latest edition of Pevner's Architectural Guide to the area, writes, "The first impression is mainly perpendicular," which is roughly the period between 1330 and 1530. But the church contains features of all periods from Saxon to 19th century. As you walk through the gate into the churchyard, the first thing you see is a very rare, complete churchyard cross. Almost all these crosses were decapitated by the iconoclasts of the 16th century Reformation. This one appeared to have suffered the same fate, until in 1860 the top of the cross was discovered walled up in the old rood stairway in the church. The huge difference in condition between the steps and shaft and the top is a testament to what 300 years of weather can do to the Cotswold stone. This cross is worth looking at closely, as the little sculptures in the panels of the cross are incredible. The three-stage 15th century tower has some great gargoyles, allowing me the luxury of boring my poor long-suffering grandchildren with an explanation of their purpose. So, what they did is they made gargoyles. You see those men right at the top there on the edge. There's a sort of strange face with, and he has, with an open mouth. And there's one in each corner, okay? And the water would land on the top of the church and it would come out through a hole just behind that gargoyle and out of the gargoyle's mouth. And the point about the gargoyle is that it stands out from the wall. So the water comes out of its mouth and then down and onto the ground and not down the wall of the house. So that's what gargoyles are for. Exactly. Also in the churchyard is what appears to be an ancient font, seemingly being used as a well cover and planter. Inside, the church treasures continue. 14th century wall painting, indistinct but exciting nonetheless, can be found in several parts of the church. It always amazes me when we discover these wonderful echoes from a time so long ago that it's hard even to imagine the people who made them, let alone the strength of religious devotion that inspired them. The aforementioned rood stair door is clearly original. Several good monuments adorn the walls, and a brilliant tomb chest with two recumbent effigies of George Lloyd wearing armour and his wife, who died in 1584. Along the frieze at the bottom are images of their 5 sons and 7 daughters. This church has been a good introduction to Matilda and Huxley. Just enough stories to keep them interested. I'll have them taking over the Cotswold exploring sooner than you think. Our next quick visit, however, is even more fascinating. Half a mile or so up the road, sitting all on its own in the middle of a field, is the church of Ampney St. Mary. Its village would seem to have deserted it during the Black Death, a devastating outbreak of bubonic plague that killed millions of people in Europe and Asia from 1346 to 1353. The village moved just under a mile away and is now called Ashbrook. The church's isolation did it no favours over the years until, in 1913, the ivy that had completely engulfed the building was removed and the church was brought back to life. Weirdly, as is so often the case, it was the church's neglect that was its saviour. The wall paintings in this building are absolutely wonderful. It takes a while to get your eye in, but at the eastern end of the north wall there's a giant St. Christopher, another on the north nave wall of St. George and the Dragon watched over by the King and Queen. My favourite is on the south wall, a warning to Sabbath breakers, featuring the Christ with injuries to his face, surrounded by implements of the various trades, a wheelwright checking a spoke is straight and true, a mallet, a horn, and various others, all giving the message that if you work on a Sunday, you injure the Son of God. Wow. All of this, and the fact that both Matilda and Huxley bravely stood still while the drone took off from their hands, made this a wonderful visit. My thanks go to them for their unending patience. Half-term is a wonderful thing. I hope you've enjoyed our little trip around Ampney Crucis. and this extraordinary bonus of this little beautiful ancient church in Ampney St Mary, just across the road. We've had a lovely time. It's been a very nice trip.
Don't forget to subscribe. And hit the notification bell.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been wonderful having you with me, and we will see you again very soon, somewhere else in the Cotswolds.